Humanity's hidden resolve. 500,000 years later, humanity's return. Brian Allen's knuckles nearly bled as he clenched his fists in anger, the ancient betrayal searing through his mind like plasma through flesh. 500,000 years ago, the Galactic Council stabbed humanity in the back. Led by the manipulative Andromedans, they sabotaged Earth's defenses during the devastating Kinta invasion. Humanity teetered on the brink of extinction, the few survivors fleeing to uncharted space, rage festering in their hearts. Revenge would be theirs, no matter how long it took. Rebuilding in secret. Over the millennia, the humans rebuilt in secret, developing advanced weaponry and powerful technologies with one purpose: to strike back at those who wronged them. Through centuries of selective breeding and genetic enhancements, they crafted the ultimate soldiers. Brian was one of them, the pinnacle of human evolution. Stronger, faster, more resilient than his ancestors ever dreamed. But would it be enough? Proximity alarms. As the proximity alarms blared, signaling an approaching Andromedan patrol fleet, Brian knew this was the moment of truth. If he failed now, humanity's last hope for vengeance would be lost forever. He had to succeed, or the sacrifices of countless generations would be for nothing. The fate of the human race rested on his shoulders. Preparation for battle. Brian strolled into the armory with purpose, his boots clanging against the metal grates. The room was a bustle of activity as his hand-picked team of elite warriors geared up for the mission ahead. Each member had proven their unwavering loyalty and honed their skills to a razor's edge over countless training simulations. Expertise of Liam Novak. Liam Novak, Brian's second in command and trusted confidant, looked up from the Andromedan tech he was studying. "Captain, I finished my analysis of their latest security protocols. With the right approach, we should be able to slip past their defenses undetected." Team unity. Brian clasped Liam's shoulder. "Excellent work, Novak. Your expertise will be invaluable on this op." He turned to address the rest of the team, his voice ringing with authority. "Listen up, we have a critical mission ahead of us. The intel we gather today could turn the tide in our fight against the Andromedans. Failure is not an option." Determination. The team nodded in unison, their expressions hardened with determination. They understood the gravity of their task and the weight of their people's hopes resting upon their shoulders. As the team filed into the shuttlecraft, Brian took his seat at the helm, his fingers dancing across the console to initiate the ship's cloaking device. Cloaking technology. The humans had spent centuries perfecting this technology in secret, a testament to their resilience and ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. The Andromedans believed such advancements were impossible for the broken remnants of humanity to achieve. They were about to be proven dead wrong. The approach. The shuttlecraft slipped out of the main ship's hangar bay, vanishing from sensors as its cloaking field engaged. Brian expertly guided them toward the Andromedan outpost looming in the distance, his mind racing with thoughts of the centuries of preparation that had led to this pivotal moment. Centuries of study. Generation after generation, the humans had carefully studied their enemy, learning their language, culture, and technology, all while maintaining the illusion of a scattered and defeated race. They had bided their time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike back against those who had betrayed them so long ago. The reckoning. As the outpost grew larger in the view screen, Brian's grip tightened on the controls. The reckoning was at hand, and the Andromedans would soon learn the true depths of humanity's resolve. The ghosts of their ancestors demanded retribution, and Brian would not rest until it was delivered in full. The infiltration. Stealth mission. Brian and his team moved through the Andromedan outpost like ghosts, their advanced stealth suits bending light around them, rendering them virtually invisible to the alien security cameras and patrols. The only sound was the soft whisper of their footsteps against the metal floor as they navigated the dimly lit corridors. High-value target. Brian held up a fist, signaling the team to halt. His enhanced senses, the result of centuries of genetic engineering, had picked up on something. He could hear the faint murmur of a conversation coming from a room just ahead. The voice patterns and inflections were distinctly Andromedan, but there was something else, an air of authority that set it apart from the rank-and-file soldiers they had encountered thus far. Interrogation. Brian activated his comm link with a tap. "Novik, I think we got a high-value target up ahead. Can you confirm?" Liam's voice crackled over the link. "Give me a second, Captain." The sound of rapid typing filled the channel as Liam worked his magic on the outpost systems. "Got it. The room ahead is registered to Aaron Valor. Cross-referencing with our intel. Captain, he's a member of the Galactic Council's inner circle. Capturing Vadar." Brian's heart raced with excitement. This was an opportunity they couldn't pass up. "Change of plans, people. We're taking Valor alive. Novik, I need you to disable the alarms and create a diversion to draw the guards away." "Consider it done, Captain." As Liam's fingers flew across his wrist-mounted computer, Brian signaled to two of his team members, Sergeant Ava Ramirez and Corporal Teshi Sato. They nodded, moving into position on either side of the door. Executing the plan. The door slid open with a hiss, and the three humans burst into the room. Valor spun around, his eyes widening in shock as he found himself face to face with a species he believed to be long extinct. Before he could reach for his sidearm, Ava and Teshi were on him, swiftly incapacitating the Andromedan with a series of precise strikes. Interrogation begins. Brian stood over the prone form of Valor, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Aaron Valor, I presume," he said in flawless Andromedan. Valor's eyes narrowed. How is this possible? Your kind was wiped out centuries ago." "Truth serum. Reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated," Brian replied, pulling a small vial from his belt. "Now you're going to tell us everything you know about the Galactic Council's plans." Valor laughed. "You're wasting your time, human. I'll never betray my people." Brian smiled coldly. "We'll see about that." He injected the contents of the vial into Valor's neck, watching as the Andromedan's eyes glazed over. The truth serum, a marvel of human biochemistry, was already taking effect. "Now let's start with the locations of your key military installations." Revelation of the Nexus. Brian's eyes widened as Valor, under the influence of the truth serum, revealed the Galactic Council's centuries-long search for the Nexus. The ancient technology, a remnant of a long-extinct civilization, promised unimaginable power to those who could unlock its secrets. Valor's words spilled out in a rush, detailing how the Council was on the cusp of locating the Nexus and harnessing its abilities to control matter and energy on an unprecedented scale. The race for the Nexus. Implications of the Nexus. Brian's mind raced as he processed the implications of this revelation. If the Andromedans and the Galactic Council obtained the Nexus, they would become an unstoppable force, capable of subjugating countless worlds and bending the entire galaxy to their will. The urgency of the humans' mission intensified. They now faced not only the task of avenging their past, but also preventing a future where their enemies held the ultimate power. Strategic discussion. "Captain, this changes everything," Liam said, his voice tinged with concern. "If they get their hands on the Nexus, our plans for revenge will be meaningless. We'll be fighting a losing battle." Brian nodded grimly. "Agreed. We need to act fast and sabotage their efforts to locate the Nexus. It's our only chance to level the playing field." Formulating the plan. The team huddled together, quickly formulating a plan to throw a wrench into the Council's machinations. They would plant a series of explosives throughout the outpost, timed to detonate after they had safely escaped. The destruction would not only erase any evidence of their presence, but also deal a significant blow to the Andromedans' progress in their search for the Nexus. "Ava, Teshi, you're with me," Brian ordered. "We'll set the charges in the main data center and the power core. Liam, you and the others focus on the research labs and the communications hub. We need to make sure they can't recover any data or call for reinforcements. Setting the charges. The team split up, each group moving swiftly and silently through the outpost corridors. Brian, Ava, and Teshi reached the data center, their stealth suits allowing them to bypass the security measures with ease. They planted the explosives at key points, ensuring maximum damage to the Andromedan systems. As they moved on to the power core, Brian's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. The Nexus represented a game-changer in the conflict between humans and the Galactic Council. It was a race against time, and the stakes had never been higher. The fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy hung in the balance. Escape and destruction. With the charges set, Brian and his team regrouped at the designated extraction point. They boarded their shuttlecraft, the explosives timers ticking down in sync with their own racing heartbeats. As they made their escape, the outpost erupted in a series of blinding explosions, the force of the blasts shaking the shuttlecraft as it sped away into the void of space. Brian let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. They had struck a blow against the Andromedans, but he knew this was only the beginning. The battle for the Nexus had begun, and the humans would stop at nothing to ensure that this ancient power did not fall into the wrong hands. The future of the galaxy depended on it. The Galactic confrontation. The aftermath. Back on the reconnaissance ship, the team gathered to analyze the information they had extracted from the Andromedan systems. The more they uncovered, the clearer the picture became. The Galactic Council was not just searching for the Nexus. They were preparing for war. "They've been building a fleet," Liam said, his voice tight with tension. "Warships, fighters, troop transports, all equipped with advanced weapons and shielding tech. It looks like they're getting ready to make a big push to find the Nexus." Strategic response. Brian studied the holographic display, his mind racing. The Council's military might was formidable, far beyond anything the humans had faced before. If they got their hands on the Nexus, there would be no stopping them. "We need to find it first," Brian said, his voice filled with determination. "And we need to find a way to neutralize that fleet. If the Council gets the Nexus, it's game over." Mission preparation. The team exchanged glances, the weight of their mission settling on their shoulders. They had come so far, but the true fight was just beginning. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the humans were the only ones who could tip the scales. The hidden archive. Brian gathered his team in the reconnaissance ship's briefing room, the holographic display casting a cool blue glow across their faces. The weight of their mission hung heavy in the air as he outlined their next steps. "We can't afford to let the Council get their hands on the Nexus," he said, his voice steady and resolute. "We need to find it first. And to do that, we need more information." Liam stepped forward, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "Our intel suggests that the Andromedans have a secret research facility hidden in the Zeta Quadrant. They've been studying ancient artifacts and texts related to the Nexus, trying to piece together its location." Infiltration mission. Brian nodded, his eyes scanning the faces of his team. "That's where we come in. Liam and I will leave a small group to infiltrate the facility and gather whatever information we can. The rest of you will split into teams and work on sabotaging the Council's military infrastructure. We need to slow them down and buy ourselves some time." Stealth operation. As the ship dropped out of hyperspace near the Zeta Quadrant, Brian and Liam prepared their team for the infiltration. They donned their stealth suits, the advanced technology rendering them nearly invisible to the naked eye. "Remember," Brian said, his voice low and steady, "we get in, we get the information, and we get out. No unnecessary risks." Liam flashed a grin. "Just like old times, Captain?" Brian allowed himself a small smile. "Let's hope this goes a bit smoother than old times." The discovery. Navigating the facility. The team slipped into the research facility like ghosts, their suits blending seamlessly with the shadows. They moved silently through the corridors, their enhanced senses alert for any signs of trouble. As they neared the central data core, Liam paused, his head cocked to one side. "I'm picking up some strange energy readings," he whispered, his fingers flying over his wrist-mounted computer. "I think we're close." Data extraction. Brian signaled for the team to fan out, their weapons at the ready. They entered the data core, the room bathed in an eerie green light. Ancient artifacts and texts lined the walls, their surfaces covered in cryptic symbols and glyphs. "Start downloading everything you can," Brian ordered, his eyes scanning the room for any signs of movement. "We don't have much time." Uncovering the Nexus map. As the team worked, Brian and Liam pored over the artifacts, their minds racing to decipher the clues hidden within. Suddenly, Liam let out a low whistle. "Captain, I think I found something." Brian moved to his side, his eyes widening as he saw the holographic map flickering above Liam's wrist-mounted computer. It was a star chart, but unlike any he had seen before. Strange symbols and coordinates swirled across its surface, hinting at a destination far beyond the edges of known space. Fragmented clues. "The Nexus," Brian breathed, his heart pounding in his chest. "It has to be." But as they studied the map, their excitement turned to frustration. The map was incomplete, the coordinates fragmented and unclear. "We need more," Liam said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is just a piece of the puzzle." Continued search. Brian nodded grimly. "Then we keep searching. We don't stop until we have what we need." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility, the harsh sound shattering the stillness. "They know we're here," Liam said, his voice tight with tension. "We need to move. Escape under fire." The team raced through the corridors, their stealth suits shimmering as they pushed their cloaking technology to its limits. They could hear the pounding of Andromedan feet behind them, the shouts of the soldiers echoing off the walls. They burst out of the facility, their shuttle waiting just beyond the perimeter. As they leaped aboard, plasma bolts sizzled past them, the heat of the Andromedan weapons searing the air. Brian gunned the engines, the shuttle tearing away from the facility with a roar. As they sped into the void of space, he could see the explosions blossoming behind them, the sabotage teams striking with brutal efficiency. A small victory. "We hurt them today," Liam said, his voice filled with grim satisfaction. "But this is just the beginning." Brian nodded, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. They had the first piece of the map, but the road to the Nexus was long and fraught with danger. The Galactic Council would stop at nothing to find it first, and the humans would have to be ready for anything. Allies and enemies. Unexpected communication. Brian furrowed his brow as he studied the incomplete Nexus map, the holographic display casting a faint blue glow on his face. Liam paced back and forth, his mind racing with possibilities. They had come so far, but without the final pieces of the puzzle, their mission would stall. Suddenly, a chime from the ship's communication system broke the tense silence. Brian tapped the console, his eyes widening as he read the message. "It's from an unknown sender," he said, his voice tinged with suspicion. "They claim to have information about the Nexus. Potential trap." Liam leaned over Brian's shoulder, scanning the message. "It could be a trap," he cautioned. "But if there's even a chance they're telling the truth." Brian nodded. "We have to investigate. But we do this smart. Neutral ground, full precautions." Meeting on neutral ground. They arranged the meeting on a small, unremarkable planet, far from the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council. As they stepped out of their shuttle, hands hovering near their weapons, a figure emerged from the shadows. Brian's jaw clenched as he recognized the face of Commander Zahn. "You have some nerve showing up here," Brian growled, his finger tightening on the trigger of his blaster. "An unexpected ally." Zahn raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I come not as your enemy, but as an ally," he said, his voice calm and measured. "I have seen the truth of the Council's intentions, and I cannot stand idly by it as they seek to control the galaxy." Brian and Liam exchanged skeptical glances. "And why should we trust you?" Liam demanded. "You've fought against us at every turn." Zahn sighed, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his decision. "I have been blind to the Council's true nature," he admitted. "Their pursuit of the Nexus is not for the betterment of our people, but for their own selfish gain. I cannot be a part of that any longer." Forming a plan. As they spoke, Brian studied Zahn's face, searching for any hint of deception. But he saw only a deep weariness and a flicker of hope in the Andromedan's eyes. "What do you propose?" Brian asked, lowering his weapon slightly. Zahn stepped forward, his voice urgent. "I know the location of a hidden archive, one that holds the final pieces of the Nexus map. With my help, you can infiltrate the facility and retrieve the artifacts. Trust and risk." Liam shook his head. "It's too risky. This could all be an elaborate ruse to capture us." But Brian held up a hand, his mind racing with possibilities. "No," he said slowly. "I think he's telling the truth. And if he is, this could be our only chance to complete the map." The final confrontation. Infiltrating the archive. They spent the next several hours poring over the details of Zahn's plan, mapping out every contingency and potential pitfall. When they finally set out for the archive, it was with a sense of grim determination. The facility was hidden deep within a labyrinthine asteroid field, its entrance concealed by a complex series of energy fields and false signals. But with Zahn's insider knowledge, they were able to slip past the defenses undetected. Navigating traps. As they made their way deeper into the archive, they encountered a series of traps and security measures, each more deadly than the last. Andromedan drones patrolled the corridors, their sensors sweeping for any sign of intruders. Brian and Liam moved silently, their stealth suits rendering them all but invisible. Completing the map. At last, they reached the central chamber, a vast room filled with ancient artifacts and data terminals. Zahn moved quickly, his fingers flying over the controls as he searched for the final pieces of the map. "Got it," he said triumphantly, holding up a small data drive. "With this, the map will be complete." Escape and pursuit. But as they turned to leave, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. "The Andromedans have discovered our presence." "Go," Zahn shouted, drawing his weapon. "I'll hold them off." Brian hesitated for a moment, torn between his desire to complete the mission and his newfound respect for the Andromedan commander. But Liam grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the exit. As they raced back to their shuttle, the sounds of battle echoing behind them, Brian clutched the data drive tightly in his hand. They had the final pieces of the puzzle. Now, all that remained was to find the Nexus itself. Approaching the Nexus, Brian's heart pounded as he gripped the completed map, the ancient parchment crackling beneath his fingers. Liam and Zahn stood beside him, their faces etched with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. They knew that the Galactic Council was hot on their heels, desperate to claim the Nexus for themselves. "The map leads to the Zion system," Liam said, his voice low and urgent. "It's a remote star system, long abandoned by any known civilization." Zahn nodded grimly. "The perfect hiding place for a device as powerful as the Nexus." The final battle. Without wasting another moment, they boarded their shuttle and set a course for the Zion system. As they approached the desolate planet, Brian couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. His suspicions were confirmed when their sensors detected a group of Andromedan ships in close pursuit. "They must have followed us," Liam growled, his fingers flying over the shuttle controls. "We need to lose them before we land." Brian and Zahn manned the weapons systems, engaging the Andromedan ships in a tense dogfight as Liam skillfully maneuvered through the planet's atmosphere. The shuttle shuddered as enemy fire grazed its shields, but they managed to evade the worst of the barrage. Discovering the Nexus. As they touched down on the planet's barren surface, the ruins of an ancient alien city loomed before them, the crumbling structures whispering of long-forgotten secrets. "The Nexus is hidden somewhere within these ruins," Brian said, checking his weapon. "We need to find it before the Andromedans do." They set out into the labyrinthine ruins, the map guiding their every step. But as they delved deeper into the ancient city, the sound of footsteps echoing behind them made it clear they were not alone. Admiral Vak's betrayal. Well, what do we have here?" A familiar voice called out. Brian and his companions spun around to see Admiral Vak emerging from the shadows, flanked by a group of heavily armed Andromedan soldiers. "Zahn, I always knew you were a traitor, but to think you'd throw in your lot with these humans," Vak sneered. Zahn stepped forward, his eyes blazing with defiance. "The Council's hunger for power will destroy us all, Vak. I cannot stand by and watch as they unleash untold destruction upon the galaxy." Vak's face twisted with rage. "Then you will die with these pathetic creatures." Climactic battle. The ruins erupted into chaos as the two sides clashed, energy weapons scorching the ancient stone. Brian and his team fought side by side with Zahn, their enhanced abilities and training proving a match for the Andromedan soldiers. Amidst the chaos of the battle, Brian caught Liam's eye. "Go," he shouted over the din of the fighting. "Find the Nexus. I'll hold them off." Liam hesitated for a moment, then nodded, slipping away into the shadows. Brian and Zahn redoubled their efforts, their weapons flashing as they pushed back against the Andromedan onslaught. Securing the Nexus. Deep within the heart of the ruins, Liam followed the final clues on the map, his heart racing as he approached the chamber housing the Nexus. As he stepped inside, his breath caught in his throat. There, hovering in the center of the room, was a shimmering orb of pure energy, its surface pulsing with an otherworldly light. But before he could approach the device, the sound of footsteps behind him made Liam spin around. Admiral Vak stood in the doorway, his eyes glinting with malice. "Step away from the Nexus, human," he growled, leveling his weapon at Liam's chest. Brian burst into the chamber moments later, his armor battered and scorched from the battle outside. He froze as he took in the scene before him. Liam standing before the Nexus, Vak's weapon trained on his friend's heart. Decisive moment. "The Nexus is mine," Vak snarled, his finger tightening on the trigger. "With its power, the Galactic Council will reshape the galaxy in our image. A new order will rise, with the Andromedans as its masters." Brian and Liam exchanged a desperate glance, the weight of the moment hanging heavy between them. The fate of the galaxy rested on their next move. They could try to seize the Nexus for themselves, harnessing its incredible power to stop Vak and the Council. But the risk was immense. If they failed, the Nexus would fall into enemy hands, dooming countless worlds to subjugation and ruin. Or they could find another way, a path that didn't rely on the temptation of ultimate power. But with Vak poised to strike and time running out, the choices before them seemed equally fraught with peril. In that moment of crisis, Brian and Liam knew that the decision they made would echo across the stars, shaping the future of the galaxy for generations to come.